The Undercountry Music News is an excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, which features music from great country artists you won't hear on mainstream radio, as well as a roundup of the most interesting country music news of the week without all the fluff. This program you're listening to right now contains only the news portion of the show. To listen and subscribe to the full weekly episode containing the music and interviews, please visit undercountrymusic.com or simply subscribe to the Undercountry Music Podcast on iTunes. Let's get into it. I don't mind telling you that stuff because you know what? It's just you and me here. And that's what podcasting's all about. And, that's just some of the latest news about what's going on, which is a nice segue into the section of the show that I like to call the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is the portion of the show each and every week where I do a whacked out experiment that has proven to have a knack for getting the villagers at my door with torches and pitchforks, because you know what? There are some people in this world that just do not like anybody who says what's actually on their mind and who might actually, not be afraid to poke someone in the ribs here and there. And if they see something that they think is BS, say that it's BS. There are people in this world who will get angry and storm around if you do anything besides blow rainbows and unicorns up their sphincter. Well, I ain't here to blow rainbows up your butt. I'm here to bring you the Undercountry Music News, and that is where every single week I go onto Google. I type in the search term Country Music News, and whatever websites show up on the front page of Google, I go on to each and every one of them that purport to bring you country music news, and I find out if they're really doing it or if they're just blowing rainbows up your butt. Okay? You know what? There could be worse things in your butt than a rainbow, I will admit. Okay? But when I see stuff, where it's just story after story after story, like, what do you say here? What can you say? What does Kelly Pickler really think about the Wizard of Oz or some BS like that? I tell you it's BS. Actually, I don't even report stuff like that. I go on there and I find the one or two stories where they're actually reporting some damn country music news. And I get those one or two stories from this website. I go and I look for the one or two stories on that website and on down the chain. And usually ends up being about 8 to 10 websites that I bring you stories from. And I put them all together in one essential ball of news, which I dribble down the court to you. And then I slam dunk it in your face, because this is my house, bitch! Got it? Okay, and that's the Undercountry Music News. Let's get into... Oh, yeah, by the way, if I come across a country music news outlet that doesn't report any country music news, just, sunshines and rainbows in your butt cheeks, I reward such unfortunate reporting with the dreaded Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. And I gotta tell you, the last 3 weeks, I have not distributed any belches. I'm feeling a little gassy today, but let's find out. If someone's bringing you news, they bring you news and they don't get the belch, okay? So it might be an entire month here of no belching, or I might give 5 people the belch. You just never know. Let's get into it. Over at CMT, the Civil Wars have made it official that they are permanently parting ways. I personally found the howls of sorrow all over the internet by different people going, "Oh, the Civil Wars broke up! Oh, the Civil Wars broke up!" You know what? I thought that was a little silly and asinine, and especially uninformed, because Joy Williams and John Paul White who make up the duo Civil Wars. These two split up in 2012. They won a Grammy and everything, and that didn't bring them back together. They just never made any sort of official announcement. But if you cared that much about the Civil Wars and you followed them that closely, you already knew they broke up. So don't feign sorrow on the internet, because it's BS and it's silly and it's stupid, okay? These two, they both put out very carefully worded official statements. It's just the usual BS that really doesn't mean or say anything, like, oh, I'm so grateful for the time I've had in the Civil Wars, and the wonderful music that we shared will last a lifetime, and it will always be a part of me, and we look forward to the future in our unique endeavors and wish each other the best, and look forward to bringing our new music to you. Blah, 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 frickin' blah, blah. Okay? They did nothing. They said nothing. They haven't been anything for a couple of years, and there's still nothing. Get over it. Moving right along, there was a report last week of a rape at a Keith Urban concert, and now another one at a Tim McGraw concert. The Keith Urban concert account that I read, now, before you come after me with your torches and pitchforks, the account that I read, got it? From one source that I read it from, made it sound like that particular case may have been consensual, albeit in public, on the lawn at the concert. Now, I could be wrong about that. I'm just stating from what I read, it sounded like it was consensual. You know, the guy wasn't like choking her to death and forcibly on top of her, but I wasn't there, so I don't frickin' know. But this one from the Tim McGraw concert that just came to light, now this one actually sounds pretty bad. It supposedly happened at the Michigan International Speedway near a section of the venue parking lot that was apparently unguarded at the time, totally abandoned. And this woman was allegedly gang raped by 3 guys while trying to get to her car. No security at all. Now, you'd think that a public venue would at least have some sort of security presence, you know, be it cameras, someone driving around, you know, a security. That's one of those places where I think you have a reasonable expectation of a level of security to keep the people that go there, you know, with a reasonable expectation of safety. Things can happen anywhere, but I mean, to be so lacking security that a gang rape can happen right out in an open parking lot, I think maybe someone from that venue is going to have some splaining to do and some lawsuits to pay off, and I really hope they catch these 3 a-holes that did this, purportedly. And my heart definitely goes out to that lady that this happened to. All right, moving along, over at CMT, they are also reporting that Jason Aldean has claimed the world's record for being the most downloaded male country artist ever, accumulating more than 21 million song downloads and on-demand streams over the course of his career. I think I'm personally, as a country artist, coming on something like 5 downloads, I believe. So my hat's off to you, Mr. Aldean. Over at Country Weekly, they only got one thing they're reporting, but it saves them from the wet belch. John Party has announced his first headlining tour, kicking off October 10th in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's all they got over there at Country Weekly. I mean, change their name to Country, put an A in Weekly, W-E-A-K-L-Y, because That's pretty weak if that's the only country music you can bring us as far as news. Right, moving along, Taste of Country. The only story of any note at all at Taste of Country is that the welcome sign in Miranda Lambert's hometown of Lindale, Texas, which also has her picture on it, well, someone thought Miranda would look a whole lot better with a white mustache. You know, that didn't quite come out right, did it? I think there's a whole lot of people that think Miranda would look a whole lot better. Well, I'm going to... Wait a minute. Hang on. Whoa. Maybe just a necklace. All right, that's seriously the closest thing to country music news they have to report over there at Taste of Country. There's more Miranda Lambert news in the news. This one comes to us from GAC. Miranda Lambert has a poster that plays different songs depending on where you touch it. Seriously. First she's getting a white mustache, and now she's got a poster that you're supposed to grope. Wow. And Kenny Chesney, he's produced a documentary about the legendary NCAA football coach, Steve Spurrier, who's best known for his time coaching the Florida Gators. You can see the trailer for that over at GAC. NashvilleGab.com. Brian Kelly from Florida Georgia Line will be appearing on an upcoming episode of Treehouse Masters. You can find out when and where by listening to a short recorded interview, which I didn't personally care enough to listen to myself. But I have seen a couple episodes of Treehouse Masters, and that show's pretty damn cool. Even though I don't watch much TV. Don't even, well, I have TVs, I don't watch them. I use them as computer monitors. And then I keep whatever we want to watch as a family on hard drives, and I just plug it into a projector and have this huge screen in my living room. Bam, and we watch a movie like probably every night. All right, anyway, over at Nashville.com. These guys have been coming up in the world pretty nicely. Nashville.com. They were nowhere on the news rolls just 2 months ago, and now they're all up in your business. Great article at Nashville.com about Hal Ketchum. He's very upset that people think he's a condiment. Not really, I made that up. He's releasing his first new album in 5 years after struggling with multiple sclerosis, which included bouts of blindness and paralysis. His health has improved lately to the point to where he could start writing songs again. But he did need some coaxing to get back into the studio and lay tracks once again. And apparently he's done it, and he's got a new one coming out. So, kudos to Hal Ketchum. Well, his new album's called Colonel Mustard. And the first song is called She Got Buns. Also over at Nashville.com, they have a real interesting story about the Australian government giving grants to Aussie artists to come to Nashville for 3 months at a stretch and be mentored by Music City's creative and business community. Then the story's going like, oh, look how awesome, how wonderful and everything. And part of me thinks that's really freaking cool. Then there's another part of me that's saying, hey, wait a minute. If I'm not mistaken, Australians pay some pretty high taxes. A whole lot higher than I believe we do here in the U.S. If I'm correct about that, and I'm sure maybe someone will correct me if I'm wrong. Now, I wonder how the Australian taxpayers feel about their Aussie dollars being spent sending random musicians to study in Nashville. That ain't cheap. And I know I wouldn't be very happy to find out my tax dollars are being spent to send some musician to go study in Australia. I want my tax dollars fixing the roads. I want my tax dollars, educating the kids. I want my tax dollars being spent on the infrastructure to my town. I want my tax dollars being spent, keeping the people safe. Fire systems, police, not sending, Joe Schmo and his guitar off to, learn how to play a didgeridoo with freaking Crocodile Dundee, okay? I think the Australian people should be outraged about their tax dollars being spent that way. Especially since they haven't hired me to mentor these guys. I'll mentor them good. I'll say, get the F back to Australia, and when you decide you're a serious enough musician to where you will spend your own dollars to come here and study, then come on. Right? That's the way I feel about it. Over at the 615, Brad Paisley has dedicated a new song called Me and Jesus to the Ebola-infected doctor who was recently brought into the U.S. for treatment. Apparently, this doctor had refused a treatment they were administering in Africa, where he and others had contracted the disease because there was only enough for one patient, and he gave up his treatment so that another patient could have it. That's a big man right there. Now, reportedly, this doctor has received a dose of the treatment here in the States and is improving. And thoughts and prayers are with that doctor. What a big, big, big man. And this has been your Country Music News. Thank you for listening to the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is just a small excerpt of the weekly hour-long internet broadcast Undercountry Music, where I, Neil Smith, not only round up the week in country music news and put my own spin on it, but I also play music and have great interviews by lesser-known original country acts, the kind that you won't hear on mainstream country radio. If you're thirsting for that, get on over to undercountrymusic.com where you can listen and subscribe. You can also subscribe via iTunes to Undercountry Music. Thanks so much. Stay under, stay country.